The internet has transformed our lives, bringing new opportunities, knowledge, and ways to connect. But with these benefits come risks, cyber threats, misinformation, and online scams that affect everyone, from students to seniors. Good evening, Jamaica, and welcome to this special Safer Internet Day broadcast brought to you by Flow and the Flow Foundation. I'm your host, Archibald Gordon. Now, tonight, we're going to be exploring how we can protect, empower, and thrive, and build a safer digital Jamaica. We're going to have an insightful show ahead, including a panel discussion with representatives of various groups, and later a fireside chat with a digital consultant. Plus, we're going to be hearing real stories that highlight the importance of staying safe online. So stay with us. This is a conversation you will not want to miss. Now, since 2017, Flow has been championing Safer Internet Day and empowering Jamaicans through education. Over the years, Flow has positively impacted preteens, youths, and seniors across the country. Through its Teen Summit, Seniors Forum, and Safer Internet School Grant, Flow has led innovative initiatives that engage Jamaicans around owning their digital footprint. Now, to set the stage, I'm joined by Stephen Price. He's Vice President and General Manager of Flow, and he's Chairman of the Flow Foundation. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, Archie. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Now, Flow has been at the forefront of promoting digital literacy and online safety. First, break down what you mean when you talk about digital literacy.
Literacy, ability to read, write, be numerate. Digital literacy, however, takes it to the next level, utilizing devices such as phones, tablets, laptops, computers, to be able to interact in the digital world in terms of being able to send an email, send a text message, be able to do basic banking, find information for learning, for work, for all these things in a digital environment.
And the fact that people have these digital devices doesn't necessarily mean that they have certain skills to be able to use them well.
Correct.
That's why this is important.
It's absolutely important because we want to make sure that our people in Jamaica have the ability to navigate that space both safely, but at the same time to be able to understand exactly what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Now, this is part of the reason you're doing the work today, which is Safer Internet Day.
Correct.
Why is this so important again to Flow?
I think we have a responsibility because being the largest telecoms company in the country and having the most consumers that are in the space, the challenge is therefore ours to ensure that our people, our customers, are safe wherever they go. We've been doing so much work, Archie, over the past 8 years, and I can't believe 8 years have passed like this, right? Whereby we have touched senior citizens, we have touched hundreds of schools in terms of programs which have sought to educate, empower, and build the capacity within schools, build the capacity within seniors so that they can safely navigate this world. We know we live in a VUCA world where there's so much things happening in terms of the AI space. People don't know what's happening on a day-to-day basis based on the speed at which technology is changing. We want to be able to equip them so that they can navigate it safely, protect themselves, protect their families, and be able to lead lives in a digital world.
So let's talk about some of the initiatives that you've done.
Sure. We've had our senior citizens forums all these 8 years. We've been even awarded by the National Senior Citizens Association for the work that we've done in that space to make sure seniors, because we realized so many seniors were being scammed, Archie, in terms of even local scammers, but international scammers, phishing, smishing, all of these kind of activities were hurting them. We want to make sure that they trusted, but verified, and made sure that they understand what they were doing in the space. In the schools, we knew what was happening. We saw the kind of experiences where images were being shared that shouldn't be shared, right? We saw where bullies were happening in that space. So we want to make sure our children are also protected. So we started the Safer Internet Day. We even expanded it to a week. And then a couple of years, we did an entire year of programs whereby we built that capacity, built real ambassadors in schools so that they were able to teach their peers, but also teach the schools as to how to operate in that space.
And you are sharing a lot of information about things that people really need to know to operate in the space.
Exactly.
As the community expands, as our sense of community expands.
Exactly. And I will tell you this, I mean, when COVID happened and everybody had to get online, it was a scary space for so many who didn't know how to bank, who didn't know how to pay bills, all these kind of things. So we had to come into that space to make sure that we equipped our customers with the information so that they were able to better navigate the space. Now, one of the key things though, Archie, is the fact that internet safety is also our own responsibility. What we want to make sure is that you're equipped with information, but you have to protect yourself as well in terms of also seeking more information because the world is just changing around us.
What do you wish Jamaicans to understand about the sort of importance of online safety?
I think it is so much so now because of the impact of artificial intelligence. There is so many things that are happening out there, deep fakes. You could see a video of your own prime minister, right, which was not made by him, yes. Right, telling the nation different things. So we're trying to make sure that you're educated enough to see this email, is it coming from my bank or not? This email, is it coming from my telecoms provider or not? Is it coming from my insurance company? This payment that they're saying that I owe, is this the right place that I'm paying this bill to? You know, so we want to make people understand how to better navigate in that space and really protect themselves.
This is amazing work, especially when one considers how the world is expanding and
it is.
The risks as a consequence.
It is, and there are so many risks out there because you have the World Wide Web, but you also have the dark web. And that's a space that many people don't understand is happening out there. It's right, it's a whole counter world, an alternative world where criminality is rampant. And those bad actors are also in the space trying to steal your information. The government has made some great moves in the past couple of years with the GDPR in terms of the Data Protection Act to try and make sure that our citizens are protected. But there's a responsibility on each and every one of us to make sure that we navigate the space safely.
We're going to be talking a little bit, thank you so much, Steve, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what responsibilities each of us has, and we're going to be learning from some of the members of the different communities, as Stephen was talking about seniors, the teens, preteens, etc. So stick around, much more after the break.
Since 2017, Flow and the Flow Foundation have been partnering with high schools across the island to help make the internet a safer place. In celebration of Safer Internet Day on February 11, 2025, we're revisiting some of the schools to hear from administrators and students of the successes, the challenges, and the opportunities.
The biggest online threats I see facing students today would be perhaps addiction to social media, spending time online instead of doing your homework, going on TikTok and ending 5 hours later still on TikTok.
There are some rules to know about using social media. Certain links you aren't supposed to click on, certain things you aren't supposed to believe. So I think that's one of the major issues that certain students don't really understand about social media.
Many phishing scams are going around, like for example, with the scholarships.
The latest we are dealing with is artificial intelligence. So we now have to ensure that the students are critical thinkers to understand that this is something that when they're interacting with it, they have to interact with it on an intelligent level so that they are not captured by the negative aspect of it, but they know how to use it in a positive light.
Teens are among the most vulnerable online groups to dangers such as scams and cyberbullying. Having recognized that online threats were evolving rapidly, in 2023, Flow funded and challenged 5 high schools to use the creative arts to promote internet safety for its students. The creative output by each school was impressive and delivered online safety principles in a fun and exciting way.
Listen, you see, even after a few years, double tap, click, clip, double tap, stay safe still resonates within the back of my head, right? The melody is still vibrant here at Cumberland High School. In truth and in fact, the kids now, they are practicing much safer internet usage.
We thank Flow Jamaica for bringing this activity to us. Coming out of that, we have had increased programs in our lower school where we have grade meetings where we speak to our parents, speak to students, and even staff about the internet safety practices. So definitely it has boosted our campaign here at St. Hugh's.
The internet safety program with Flow really brought into perspective a number of things for the students. First of all, they had to understand that they were the first line of defense when they are on social media platform. And also they had to ensure that they secured how it is that they presented themselves online. And they had to also think about what it is that they posted and how they interacted with other persons on a social media platform.
Thanks to the collective work of students, parents, teachers, and Flow, internet safety is becoming a natural part of our daily lives. Since we use our devices every day, shouldn't we be practicing online safety every day?
One of the things that we try to educate them on, now you might be 12, 13, but later on, when you go to seek employment, these social media postings that you're doing will come back to haunt you.
Digital footprint is real, and that whatever you put on the internet, it stays there forever. Like, you might delete it, but it is stored somewhere.
Another way you can protect yourself online is by not clicking on links in Messenger.
Students can start creating boundaries. So if a person comes to them, they would know where to draw the line. I also believe that students should give themselves a time limit for when they go on social media to allow themselves not to get addicted or misuse the app.
In terms of a whole school community as teachers, we need to make sure that we, in every subject area, remind or find some way to infuse this message into our teaching so that at the end of the day, the students understand that the responsibility is really theirs.
When it comes to school, our role as administrator is to have support programs. So we do believe a lot must be done, both in our curriculum delivery and also at our home.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Now it's time for a panel discussion, and we have an esteemed panel with us. Each of them brings a unique perspective on online safety, and we're going to explore how different groups can navigate the internet more safely. With me is Cassandra Morrison. She is Executive Director of the National Council for Senior Citizens. Dendra Harrison is a digital content creator, and Laurel Williams is president of the National Secondary Students Council. So it's people from different sectors talking about their experiences. And I want to start with you, Cassandra, by talking about the experiences of seniors. We're seeing more seniors on the internet now. What are some of the challenges they're facing?
Well, Archie, before we even get onto the internet, there's a challenge, right? So we have the issue of lack of access, little or no access. So it is either that we are seeing a situation where seniors have no connectivity, either devices or lack of access to the internet. And so even before we get there, we have those challenges. For seniors who are online now, then we have a different type of challenge. Some experience this lack of the technical knowledge, basic knowledge. What do I click on? How do I choose this? How do I save a document? How do I open a particular app? How do I go back? How do I take a photo? So those are some of the challenges. And then beyond that now, we have issues in terms of navigating different sites, different interfaces, and so on. And so in general, those are issues that seniors face online. Of course, that does not negate from general issues that all of us face, safety issues, issues of fear. Where am I putting my information? What if I click the wrong thing in general?
All right. And this places them at certain sorts of risks as a consequence as well.
Exactly. Exactly, very much so. And we do know that by virtue of their age and their lack of experience and the technical skills, then they are at risk of these online threats.
No, excuse me, it's not just seniors who are facing these threats, but also young adults, teenagers as well. So Laurie, let me bring you in here. What are some of the challenges that younger people are facing?
I mean, whilst we may not face those exact challenges, I think for young people, the main issue that we sometimes face is the social media pressure, as well as the cyberbullying that comes from the internet and from the media. So, of course, we interact with social media on an almost daily basis. And when we do so, we are exposed to different people from different cultures, all with different perspectives. And sometimes, we say, all right, we want to take a chance at this content creation thing, or we want to go to the media. Sometimes that is received with a lot of criticism and a lot of bullying, a lot of degrading of one's mental health even. And we can see where social media has caused for a lot of youths to really begin to have imposter syndrome, question themselves. And because of the bullying that they sometimes receive from it, we have even seen where students, youths, and young adults have even contemplated suicidal thoughts and have dealt with a lot of mental health issues stemming from social media. And additionally, there is always the issue of misinformation, which I believe is something that would negatively impact the lives of just all across. I remember when I was doing CSEC mathematics in 2023. Unfortunately, the paper got leaked and there was so much misinformation surrounding it. And so there were different websites and different articles telling us that we would have to resit the entire exam, some saying that we would have to discard it. And that caused a lot of frantic in the height of our exam season. And I think that that is where it comes now that us as youth have to become more educated on how to prevent ourselves from being so negatively impacted by the internet.
You mentioned that issue of just being in a space where there are all of these different kinds of challenges. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned specifically that the influencers. So I want to bring in Danger here. Mm-hmm. Where you're talking about what are you seeing in the space in terms of some of the major challenges?
In terms of some of the major challenges, the first thing that comes to me is hacking, because something that I don't remember if you remember that phase in time where every other account was being hacked. Right? And it's because persons weren't necessarily sensitized as to how it is that they're supposed to protect their accounts. So now what you find is that they're having two-factor authentication, and persons are aware that you don't necessarily click on a link when someone sends you a message and say, hey, you just want some money, click on this link to accept it. So that's one of the major challenges on the influencer or the content creator side of it. Mm-hmm.
No, let's go back to Laurel for a second. Another thing that you mentioned, cyberbullying. That's a major issue. Definitely. First of all, what are you seeing? When you say cyberbullying, what do you mean?
Okay, when it comes on to cyberbullying, I think one of the first things that may come to mind at times would be how anonymous accounts, whether that just be, just somebody just going under a false name, would begin to spread rumors, or perhaps they would begin to share private videos and private photos of individuals. Of course, we know about deepfakes. Mm-hmm. For example, they would be creating these things, portraying it under or as someone else, and these things are detrimental to one's reputation. They go on the media and they may spread lies and spread rumors, which can really cause for significant backlash, especially for students. Well, really everyone. But when you think about students that are trying to pursue higher education, pursue internships, yet still when it goes back to the media, we can see where these rumors, even though they're not true, just because it is put out into the media, it creates that negative outlook on us, even though it's not true.
And people have a certain sense as well of how you ought to be able to use the internet. This idea that you should be, it should be a completely free space that you can say anything you want. Danger, I want to bring up that issue with you right there, because there's a fine line between this idea of being creative, having the right to be able to share information, and misinformation as well.
All right, so for me, I always tell myself, before I post a video, obviously I have to do my research before I record the video, not after I record the video and edit it and then do the research. The research is done before. And the second, I have to contemplate whether or not the information is correct I'm either going to edit out that section of the video or I'm just not going to post it completely. And there is also freedom of speech or opinions against facts. Something that I like to do if I'm talking about my opinion in a video, I would start the video by saying, here's what I think about this topic, or this is what I believe, or this is what I feel about this. Because if anything should happen, at least I know that it was my opinion that I was stating. Because sometimes there's this hazy line between someone's opinions and what exactly is factual. So it's very important before posting a video, ensuring that your audience is aware that this is just you stating your opinion.
So that's one way in which you can protect yourself. Cassandra, let's go to you here as well. These are the challenges that we're seeing overall. We're seeing challenges in the creative space, in the influencer space. We're seeing challenges that are affecting young people. We're seeing challenges that affect older people. The question now is, what do we do about it? First, if you're an older person, what should you be doing in terms of your approach to being online?
Well, I want to bring it back first to the family setting, because I think it is very important for us to include senior citizens more in our families. Some of the discussions that we're having related to children or even working adults apply to senior citizens. And I think that having them in that space, in the conversations, being aware of what is happening, empowers, protects them, and helps them to thrive in that very digital environment. So I think one of the first things seniors need to do is to make themselves aware, to arm themselves with information. What is happening out there? It's not just a young people thing. They really and truly need to know.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, what's the argument for telling them that they need to know and get the information in the context of people saying, no, this is a young people thing. This is not something that I need to know.
No, because guess what? You're alive. I mean, seniors are the people who told us the value and the importance of education, right? So they don't get the option to check out of not being involved in online learning or lifelong learning, right? You don't get to check out seniors. That you are now too old to learn, right? So you have a responsibility to continue to learn. Seniors are taking care of children, so they need to know so that they can protect the children they are caring for and themselves. Many seniors have significant assets. They need to know how to protect those assets that you have. So it is everybody's responsibility, right, to
do something.
Be aware. Yes.
So first thing is go out and seek the information. Make sure that you're aware of what's happening.
Yes.
Don't say that this is a young people thing. That's one.
Right.
In terms of what your family members can do, you show your mother, your grandmother information. You show them how the platforms work. What are some of the things that you can do?
Right. So another thing is to give them access, right? So we need to help them with the information,
so
educate
do not
them.
Block your grandmother from Instagram.
Right. Right, yes. So they need access. And the other thing we can do is to help them, with creating, she was talking about passwords, strong passwords. And then where possible, we can support, by monitoring some of our older adults, their online activities, right? Because we don't want to learn down the road that grandma was the part of a romance scam and she no longer has her house, right? So we're
laughing about it, but this is a real thing. It's a real challenge.
Yes, it is true. Right? So we want to be able to support our older parents like that. And then in general, just to teach them to identify, at minimum, the basic of identifying online threats, how to identify scams and fact check things that are online, because information that is online can usually be checked or double checked by another traditional media or way of getting information.
You have to teach seniors a completely different set of skills. Exactly. When you talk about what is necessary for young people as well, we are of the impression that young people are on the internet and they know how everything works, so they don't need any information at all. What kind of information do young people need, Laurel, in order to be able to protect themselves?
I mean, I completely agree with you in that the learning never stops. We're talking about lifelong learning. As long as we're alive, there's always something to learn. And specifically on this, I think the education system needs to now begin curriculum revision as it relates to incorporating and implementing robust approaches to digital literacy programs within our schools. Because we do have EDPM and we do have IT, but I think...
EDPM.
That is
electronic
document preparation management.
Okay.
Forgive me, I did IT. Yes. So whilst those are more geared to input devices, output devices, and those kind of things, I think to have more of that approach that is geared directly to digital literacy, teaching students about cybersecurity, really how to protect themselves on the media, those kind of values that we need in terms of thinking before you post, different safety measures that we need to consider. As Ms. Harrison spoke about, two-factor authentication, creating strong passwords, those methods and those important lessons that they need to protect themselves against the unfortunate impacts of social media.
Dendra, this question of what influencers can do, because what we're understanding and hearing here is that this is a community. This is a community initiative. Older people, younger people, people from the private sector, etc. What can people in the social media space who are influencers do to promote online safety?
I believe that influencers have a large role to play because at the end of the day, we're influencing people and anyone can come on the internet and talk about internet safety. But the second an influencer comes and talk about it, oh my goodness, it's trending, it's important, and we should all follow. I think it's very vital that influencers take up this responsibility to talk about internet safety. It's not something that we address until something happens, something negative happens. So it's not something we talk about until, oh, my account got hacked, or oh, there's cyberbullying taking place. But it's something that we need to address because people are listening to us. So I believe that we have a major responsibility as well.
Laurel spoke earlier, Cassandra, about this issue of what are some of the initiatives that are needed for young people so they can be safer online. What's needed for older people?
Well, for older people, we need an expansion of these services, resources that empower them as they participate in the digital space. And so where older people access services, they need to be facilitated with the resources to enable them to do so safely. This includes in our banks, in places that provide services for older people. And we know them.
Yes, this is true, not just for older people, but for people overall.
Exactly.
The thing is to go out there, get the information, ensure that you know, but also share whatever you learn with other people as well. Stick around, we're back with you after these messages.
Since 2017, Flow and the Flow Foundation have been partnering with high schools across the island to help make the internet a safer place. In celebration of Safer Internet Day on February 11, 2025, we're revisiting some of the schools to hear from administrators and students of the successes, the challenges, and the opportunities.
The biggest online threats I see facing students today would be perhaps addiction to social media, spending time online instead of doing your homework, going on TikTok and ending 5 hours later still on TikTok.
There are some rules to know about using social media. Certain links you aren't supposed to click on, certain things you aren't supposed to believe. So I think that's one of the major issues that certain students don't really understand about social media.
Many phishing scams are going around, like for example, with the scholarships.
The latest we are dealing with is artificial intelligence. So we now have to ensure that the students are critical thinkers to understand that this is something that when they're interacting with it, they have to interact with it on an intelligent level so that they are not captured by the negative aspect of it, but they know how to use it in a positive light.
Teens are among the most vulnerable online groups to dangers such as scams and cyberbullying. Having recognized that online threats were evolving rapidly, in 2023, Flow funded and challenged 5 high schools to use the creative arts to promote internet safety for its students. The creative output by each school was impressive and delivered online safety principles in a fun and exciting way.
Listen, you see, even after a few years, double tap, click, clip, double tap, stay safe still resonates within the back of my head, right? The melody is still vibrant here at Cumberland High School. In truth and in fact, the kids now, they are practicing much safer internet usage.
We thank Flow Jamaica for bringing this activity to us. Coming out of that, we have had increased programs in our lower school where we have grade meetings where we speak to our parents, speak to students, and even staff about the internet safety practices. So definitely it has boosted our campaign here at St. Hugh's.
The internet safety program with Flow really brought into perspective a number of things for the students. First of all, they had to understand that they were the first line of defense when they're on social media platform. And also they had to ensure that they secured how it is that they presented themselves online. And they had to also think about what it is that they posted and how they interacted with other persons on a social media platform.
Thanks to the collective work of students, parents, teachers, and Flow, internet safety is becoming a natural part of our daily lives. Since we use our devices every day, shouldn't we be practicing online safety every day?
One of the things that we try to educate them on, now you might be 12, 13, but later on, when you go to seek employment, these social media postings that you're doing will come back to haunt you.
Digital footprint is real, and that whatever you put on the internet, it stays there forever. Like, you might delete it, but it is stored somewhere.
Another way you can protect yourself online is by not clicking on links in Messenger. Students can start creating boundaries. So if a person comes to them, they would know where to draw the line. I also believe that students should give themselves a time limit for when they go on social media to allow themselves not to get addicted or misuse the app.
In terms of a whole school community as teachers, we need to make sure that we, in every subject area, remind or find some way to infuse this message into our teaching so that at the end of the day, the students understand that the responsibility is really theirs.
When it comes to school, our role as administrator is to have support programs. So we do believe a lot must be done, both in our curriculum delivery and also at our home.
So from phishing emails to fake investment schemes, cyber criminals are getting more sophisticated by the day. Joining me for this fireside chat is Trevor Chung. He is a digital consultant and former trust and safety product manager for Facebook and Instagram. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've seen all of the different kinds of scams that are operating online. What do you say are some of the main ones?
So there's the global context and the Caribbean context. And so to set the Caribbean context, what are some of the areas that set us apart from maybe other regions? We have extremely high mobile penetration, meaning that there are more cell phone devices than people. Doesn't mean that every person has a cell phone, but it means that there's a lot of them generally in the Caribbean. There are various levels of lower economic activity, so people are a little bit more susceptible to financial scams, as well as whilst we have come up the digital curve, we are maybe not rapidly adopting it, but not necessarily with all the safeguards. So that sets really like a real hotspot for scammers online. You have a couple different pockets. So the phishing, which many of us are aware, where we receive text messages or emails pretending to be from our banks or some other institution trying to get some personal information. You have romance scams, as mentioned earlier in the panelist, which, in this growing age, loneliness is actually on the rise. So that social connection and exploiting that need for human connection is increasing online.
So how does a romance scam, before you continue, how does that work?
So typically it would be an individual that pretends to be, they create a social media profile or a dating profile, and they create something that they believe will be attractive to whoever they're targeting. So they then engage in creating a real bond, creating some emotional connection, and then all of a sudden an event happens where they suddenly need money. They're in hospital, they're trying to travel to meet with you. Can you send money? And they exploit that human kindness, that human connection, almost always for economic gain.
So you say phishing schemes, you say romance scams, other kinds of scams which are taking place in the Caribbean.
In the Caribbean, there's a growing trend towards employment and visa scams. So many of us are looking more and more at remote jobs, online jobs. And so you get this great offer, you're going to earn, $50 US an hour. All you have to do is fill out this application. It feels all real. You do an interview, and okay, just before you start, you need to pay some onboarding fees. People happily do that, the company completely disappears. Same thing for visas. People are looking for immigration opportunities. They're looking to migrate. Oh, we can guarantee you X, Y, and Z as long as you pay a certain fee. And that's how people in the Caribbean are being targeted.
Are we also seeing more, I would say, shopping scams, particularly because of the spread of, possibilities of buying different things online?
For sure. So e-commerce is on the rise in Jamaica, as well as other entities in the Caribbean. And one of the ways that this happens is either through the advertising. So you might see a Google ad for a product that you think is real and you're trying to purchase it online. Turns out it's completely fake, or a product that is not maybe delivering the benefits that it claims to. There's cases where you think that you're buying, I remember reading this article, somebody thought they bought a drill set on a popular online retail site, I won't say which one, and they received a picture of the drill set.
That was a product?
Yeah, a picture, not the actual thing. No, what's your recourse when the buyer is overseas and you have these cross-border issues happening? So yeah, certainly that's one way, particularly when you don't have existing digital solutions that are highly vetted. People go to the informal marketplaces. So going to Facebook Marketplace as an example, rather than established genuine e-commerce player, it has different rail guards in place, buying from Amazon versus buying something off of an unknown individual on Facebook Marketplace.
So a range of different kind of scams. Is it that people are getting more affected by them? Because even when you talk, for instance, of this idea of the employment scam, that's really an online version, one might say, of something that has, you might have been able to do that using a newspaper, where somebody says register for this and you'll get a job, etc.
Yeah.
How is the fact that this is an online space changing the nature of what you're seeing in terms of scams?
So I think it's in two ways. One is in scale, and the other is in believability. So scale, technology is a huge force for good, but it can also be misused. So maybe your newspaper only has a limited reach, and you have to pay a certain amount for an advertisement. Online, the price is reduced next to nothing, and you can target the whole world if you really want to. But if you're being a little bit more focused, you can target anybody in Jamaica, Trinidad, anywhere in the Caribbean. So that's scale. It's cheaper, and I can target more people. On believability...
So this is millions of people, billions of people, potentially.
Yes. And then there's believability. So, with the rise of generative AI, things like ChatGPT or Claude's, the recently released model, DeepSeek, you're now able to create the copy to be more believable. You're able to create images that are more real. You can pretend that you have a real building with a real individual outside. You can have whole videos that seem like, okay, this must be a real opportunity. I must be actually speaking to someone that is a genuine interviewer, right? But it's completely generated. But because of the use of technology, you think, actually, this might be real. So you become more susceptible to falling for the scam.
And we're seeing, for instance, more deep fakes. I think we have a video that we're going to be playing, just showing some deep fakes.
Yes.
Explain the concept as the producer cues it up.
Yeah, so deep fakes is a term used to reference being able to maybe take a real or a completely fake person, completely made up, and transposing them onto an image or video. So it may be someone in a compromising position. It may be them, in a room or setting that they've never been in. There was a really popular one back in 2018 where they showed Barack Obama delivering a speech that he absolutely did not deliver. Funny enough, it was about deep fakes. And we're seeing that technology really, really, really become far more advanced, where unless you are a near expert, it's discernible from a real human being. Which is quite scary.
So it's a wider range of scams, the ability to reach a larger number of people, and the fact that it's more believable than ever before.
And also the medium is important. It's no longer just text. So after each generation has their own inbuilt defenses to perceiving what might be a scam and what isn't. So when you had maybe my generation, there was a pre-social media and a post-social media. So some of the sensibilities that the younger generation has on social media, I don't have, and I have to accept that. And generation prior to me had maybe never existed or never really engaged with social media. So anything that appears on social media, they must believe it. I have a little bit of sense of what's right, what's wrong. But how about what appears to be a person? All of a sudden, of course I must believe. They can't fake a person. Yes. Of course they said that.
Especially a person and a person's voice, a person's image, and all of that.
No, the latest generation would obviously recognize that, no, that's a deep fake. You can tell because their fingers aren't quite correct. The mouth isn't moving in line with the audio, all of these tiny artifacts. But the medium makes the scam much more believable, and it's about that education aspect.
Let's talk about AI and machine learning and what that means in terms of accelerating scams. First, what do you mean when talking about AI, artificial intelligence?
So AI is a broad study and can be broken into a couple areas. When we're talking about artificial intelligence, what people generally refer to today and what's been in media, generative AI, that's technology that's using large language models it's almost as if you are training a child how to understand language. It's not about a specific topic. They're understanding English, they're understanding structure, sentences, grammar, they're understanding topics, and all of a sudden they can start to answer and respond to questions that they've not been exposed to before. And it's been designed in a way that's really about being able to interact with a human, because that was the reason for having these questions that we call prompts. So you prompt a piece of generative AI.
As in ask them a question.
Ask them a question. It interprets it, tries to understand it, looks across its vast data set of billions and billions of books, videos, movies, any sort of medium, and then attempts to respond with something that fulfills the request, whether that is to, tell me what you think the weather is going to be like tomorrow in Jamaica, versus generate a picture of me shaking President Trump's hand.
And this is accelerating scams as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why?
It's really putting scams on steroids. Well, rather than having to create it does it in two ways. There's kind of like the generation that we're in today, which is I can make my scams more believable by generating a prime minister or a political figure sponsoring me, or saying that maybe like a meme coin is real, so sort of some cryptocurrency scheme is real, right? And they see this and there's belief in institutions, there's belief in people, and they don't realize that it's been artificial. So it's me as a scammer with a set of tools that effectively turns my scams, like I have them on steroids. I have more capability, I have more scale. And the next generation, these AI models start to be able to think more and more independently, autonomously. And I can now simply ask AI to go out and figure out ways to scam without telling it how to.
You can ask it to go out and figure out how to scam.
I can tell it to go out and figure out how to scam. I strongly believe that's going to be the next wave. I don't need to tell it how. I don't need to tell it who to target. It will figure out who's the right person, how do I want to target them, what would they find. Let's say it's a romance scam. I'm going to figure out this is a 67-year-old person on Facebook. We believe that these are the things that they've liked based on their social media history. I'm going to generate a fake dating profile, have fake conversations, create a fake scenario, and extract money from the person without any human involvement in the scam.
Wow, so you can train your machine to do all of that. It's essentially kind of running your own scamming organization.
Yes, that will be the future.
The next wave.
Yeah.
In terms of the current wave, though, what do I look for? Because you've described so many different kinds of things. If you're online, what are the warning signs of a scam?
Generally, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Scams tend to follow a set pattern where there may be some sort of unexpected communication, some sort of situation that requires urgency, either on here's a bunch of money that you can suddenly access, or something terrible is about to happen. So a sense of urgency is injected. And at some point in time, there will be a request for personal information, or so directly inputting a password or personal information, or the transaction of money. Oftentimes, it might be through a money remittance service rather than an official banking service, or cryptocurrency is becoming a more popular medium because it's a little bit harder to track. And it's a little bit harder to have any legal recourse on how do you get back your funds in case you've been scammed.
So you say a sense of urgency. Do this right now, do this in
right
5 minutes, do this in 10 minutes.
Otherwise,
30
something
minutes.
terrible might happen.
Yeah, or something terrible.
Or something great might happen.
Unexpected, meaning that it is, if your bank would normally contact you at a certain point of the year, of the month, this is in the middle of the month, for instance.
Yeah, no, it's not to say that if they do, all of a sudden this must be fake and I'm going to delete this message, but it should raise your antenna to be like, hey, stop, think, is this right? What would I, let me just take a little bit more cues. Maybe I contact the institution that reached out to me through their official channels and verify that what they've said, like this text message that I've received, is genuine.
And also personal information. So
yes.
Put your credit card information here, give me your date of birth, give me any kind of information that you can use to access other platforms as well. So those are some of a lot of people would be listening to this and saying, boy, this could never happen to me. How can you, first of all, you laugh when I say that.
Yeah, right?
Why?
It can happen to everyone. It almost happened to me, and I believe myself to be right up on the scale of digital literacy, but it's all about taking advantage of human psychology.
What almost happened to you?
So I had recently moved to London. I was looking for an apartment to rent. House prices in London are drastic, right? Expensive. I found what looked like a great place. Furnishings were great, a fantastic price. It was on a listed property website. I reached out and inquired and started asking questions. And I was this close to sending them money. And in fact, the only reason I didn't is the person had a very strange way of speaking where there was some tiny
a little
thing.
off.
But I was 5 minutes away from sending somebody £1,000. And I was that far down the scam pipeline. So it really could happen to anybody. And so I think it's about education and empathy. One, scams do happen far more frequently than people like to talk about. And empathy. Just because someone has been scammed doesn't mean that they're stupid. It doesn't mean that they're dunce. There's nothing wrong with it. They've been exploited. So what are the resources to help them? And how do you take away the stigma of being scammed as something that is a mark against your intellect?
Well, we'll talk about resources there. That's where we're headed in our next segment. Thank you so much, Trevor Chung. And stay with us. Much more after these messages.
Since 2017, Flow and the Flow Foundation have been partnering with high schools across the island to help make the internet a safer place. In celebration of Safer Internet Day on February 11, 2025, we're revisiting some of the schools to hear from administrators and students of the successes, the challenges, and the opportunities.
The biggest online threats I see facing students today would be perhaps addiction to social media, spending time online instead of doing your homework, going on TikTok and ending 5 hours later still on TikTok.
There are some rules to know about using social media. Certain links you aren't supposed to click on, certain things you aren't supposed to believe. So I think that's one of the major issues that certain students don't really understand about social media.
Many phishing scams are going around, for example, with the scholarships.
The latest we are dealing with is artificial intelligence. So we now have to ensure that the students are critical thinkers to understand that this is something that when they're interacting with it, they have to interact with it on an intelligent level so that they are not captured by the negative aspect of it, but they know how to use it in a positive light.
Teens are among the most vulnerable online groups to dangers such as scams and cyberbullying. Having recognized that online threats were evolving rapidly, in 2023, Flow funded and challenged 5 high schools to use the creative arts to promote internet safety for its students. The creative output by each school was impressive and delivered online safety principles in a fun and exciting way.
Listen, you see, even after a few years, double tap, click, clip, double tap, stay safe still resonates within the back of my head, right? The melody is still vibrant here at Cumberland High School. In truth and in fact, the kids now, they are practicing much safer internet usage.
We thank Flow Jamaica for bringing this activity to us. Coming out of that, we have had increased programs in our lower school where we have grade meetings where we speak to our parents, speak to students, and even staff about the internet safety practices. So definitely it has boosted our campaign here at St. Hugh's.
The internet safety program with Flow really brought into perspective a number of things for the students. First of all, they had to understand that they were the first line of defense when they're on social media platform. And also they had to ensure that they secured how it is that they presented themselves online. And they had to also think about what it is that they posted and how they interacted with other persons on a social media platform.
Thanks to the collective work of students, parents, teachers, and Flow, internet safety is becoming a natural part of our daily lives. Since we use our devices every day, shouldn't we be practicing online safety every day?
One of the things that we try to educate them on, now you might be 12, 13, but later on, when you go to seek employment, these social media postings that you're doing will come back to haunt you.
Digital footprint is real, and that whatever you put on the internet, it stays there forever. Like, you might delete it, but it is stored somewhere.
Another way you can protect yourself online is by not clicking on links in Messenger. Students can start creating boundaries. So if a person comes to them, they would know where to draw the line. I also believe that students should give themselves a time limit for when they go on social media to allow themselves not to get addicted or misuse the app.
In terms of a whole school community as teachers, we need to make sure that we, in every subject area, remind or find some way to infuse this message into our teaching so that at the end of the day, the students understand that the responsibility is really theirs.
When it comes to school, our role as administrator is to have support programs. So we do believe a lot must be done, both in our curriculum delivery and also at our home.
Welcome back. Now, one of the biggest challenges in tackling cyber threats is knowing where to turn when something goes wrong. That's where Jamaica's Cyber Incident Response Team within the Office of the Prime Minister comes in. And joining me now is Rihanna Hajigal. She's a Tier 2 analyst, a member of that team, to tell us more about how this team is helping to protect Jamaicans online. What's a Tier 2 analyst? What are you doing?
So a Tier 2 analyst is, well, basically what I do is I oversee Jamaica's cyberspace, so both public, private, and government organizations. So that's essentially what I do.
You're looking at what threats are
out there, yes, and post daily advisories and alerts of what we're seeing in the Jamaica cyberspace.
No, as you speak of advisories and alerts, that's one of the challenges that people have. There are all of these different kinds of scams. Trevor alluded to them, or, well, he said them in the segment before. We have romance scams, we have investment scams, all sorts of different kinds of phishing scams, etc. But people are unaware of where they can go to get information.
We're right here, yes. So if we're taking it from an organizational standpoint, we offer a lot of services at the CERT, free of charge, of course. So we do vulnerability assessments, and vulnerability assessment is when we assess an organization IT posture to see if there are any vulnerabilities or weaknesses in their systems that attackers could leverage in order to gain unauthorized access to their system.
And that is free, whether you're in public or private sector?
It is free. Everything that we do is free. Public sector, government, private organization, SMEs, free of charge. Another thing that we do is penetration testing, and the penetration testing is essentially when the vulnerability assessment is done, we intentionally break into your systems with the organization's permission in order to see if there are any additional vulnerabilities or threats that might be lurking in your network for them to gain unauthorized access as well. And if the recommendations that we outlined in the vulnerability assessment is done properly. Another thing that we do is incident response. So if any individual or organization is facing any form of cyber threats, a very, very frequent one that we're seeing now is ransomware. And we go into the ransomware attacks.
Explain.
Yes. So ransomware attack is essentially when a threat actor takes over your system, takes over your networks, and encrypts every single file on there. So you don't have access to anything on the network. And what they want in return, money. So what we do is we go into the organizations, we meet with the management team, the senior personnel to try and find the best solutions in order to restore your systems to normal operation. Another thing that we do at the CERT is we have daily monitoring of our feeds and sensors, and essentially what that does is that gives us a daily overview of the Jamaican landscape. So we're seeing organizations that have been involved in data breaches, and organizations that has vulnerabilities, as well as individuals that have been a part of data breaches. And what we do is we don't wait on these individuals or organizations to reach out to us and say, hey, we have been a victim of a data breach, or we're seeing where our organization has a vulnerability. What we do is we reach out to these individuals and we reach out to the organization in the form of formal letters to let them know that they have been a victim of a data breach or their systems have vulnerabilities. When it comes on to individuals now, what we do is if you're experiencing any form of cyber threat, can be we go on the internet daily. So if you have accidentally clicked on a link that you feel is malicious, you can reach out to us. We will scan your devices for you to see if there is anything malicious on your systems. If, let's say, for instance, you're home, you're at home and you feel as though something is, you know,
Something's a little off.
Yes, something is a little off. We'll come into your home and we will investigate to see whether or not, or we will investigate to see if there is anything intercepting the network in your home.
So a range of different kind of services which are available free, as you said, from your unit. If I want to get in touch with you in 30 seconds, where do I reach you on the internet? Where do I reach you by phone?
So for now, you can reach us via email. The email is Jamaica, JAMAICA, .CERT, CIRT, @opm.gov.jm.
So that's Jamaica.CIRT,
CIRT, @opm.gov.jm. And telephone 876-578-5705.
Repeat that telephone number again, quick.
578-5705.
Unfortunately, that is where we'll have to leave it today. My thanks to Rihanna Hajigal, who is from the Cyber Incident Response Team, and I think that was a powerful way to end this discussion. Essentially, we're learning that the internet is an incredible tool, but we all have a role to play in making it safer. So I want to thank our panelists, our guest experts, and of course, you, our viewers, for joining us tonight. Let's continue this conversation beyond today. Talk to your family, to your friends, and to your colleagues about internet safety. Together, we can protect, empower, and thrive as we work to build a safer digital Jamaica. I'm Archibald Gordon. Thanks for watching, and stay safe online as we work together for a better internet.